Hi guys, welcome back to another Three Amigos episode. Now today's format will be a little bit different than to what you guys are used to. This is episode one of, I guess, what we'll call our Three Amigos podcast. This podcast is a bit more of a casual sort of just chat, and we'll be talking about the sort of latest updates about the cameras in the market, from various brands, where we share our thoughts on the updates, whether or not we'll buy them, whether or not we think they're great, and just to share with you guys some of our thoughts while the press release is still sort of hot in the market. So we hope you guys enjoy this format. We know there's lots of room to improvement, so do let us know about your thoughts and comments down in the comment section below, and let's get started. So the first episode, Junio, today we'll be talking about has to be about the Fujifilm X100 VI.
Has to be. Yeah, can't be left out for sure.
I mean, this is the hottest camera that's been in the market for the past, 2 or 3 years. And whilst they're releasing a new camera, people still can't get their hands on the previous camera, which is something we haven't really seen in previous, cameras in the consumer market.
Yeah, very true. I think the X100 was released in 2020, and even so, it was extremely hard to find it. And the second market was actually going up in terms of the price for it, right? So, and then I think with Fuji stopping the production as well, that made it even harder to actually get it hands on.
Yeah. So we're basing this sort of comment based on our also personal experiences. You having owned the X100 V, the Leica Q3. I still have the X100F, and I've also played with the Q3, Q2, and the Q as well. So even though we don't have a hands-on, I know you've placed an order for the X100V, X100 6 already, but I know you, like the rest of the general population, are eagerly awaiting for the copy. So in case you're watching, do subscribe. Hopefully with a better subscriber count, we'll get earlier access to give you guys better content in the future. All right?
Yeah, I tried my best, honestly. Like I think the Leica Q3, we were very lucky, for example, to get hands on early on. And the Fuji, I tried the best I could to get the camera as early as possible, but at the moment it looks like it only arrived in April. I think from the order that we have, they already told us unlikely that in March it will arrive. Now I also tried going to the Hong Kong store at the launch day, and it was crazy. The queue was massive. Like the store was not open and people were already camping outside of it.
And you arrived there early as well, right? So
I literally went there before going to work, and I was like, okay, maybe it's too early, no one is going to be here, just check it out. And oh my god, it was crazy. The queue just got bigger and bigger as I was leaving as well. So yeah.
So what exactly formed the hype behind the X100V?
I think honestly, for people, that camera is very nostalgic. I think it's similar to the Nikon ZF, which I think Nikon did a great job in coming out with it. You can see how it sells like cupcakes, right? It's really such an accessible camera for everyone in a high demand. And I think in part it comes from the Fuji X100 line, where it gives you a bit of a nostalgic feel. It has that portability, and you can do the film simulation as well. I think there's a lot of appeal to it, to be honest, right? And it fits in your pocket very easily.
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of the online things, and a lot of people attribute it a lot to sort of like TikTok and all those things. Like it became an influencer's camera, and I think that's sort of why everyone jumped on the hype train. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a great camera, and for good reason that camera is selling hotcakes. But I think let's go on sort of a deep dive to see, whether or not this camera is really for you. If you're in the market looking for one, we'll talk about if you already have the X100V or older generations. Let's talk about alternative cameras, and let's highlight some of the features as well as some of the cons maybe that some people didn't really talk about into this new generation. So Junio, let's get into it. Why don't you highlight some of the important key features of the X100 VI?
So obviously the key one that I personally see is the IBIS, but obviously the sensor is bigger, is the 40 megapixels, and he's using the same sensor as the latest XT, which is very powerful. I think it's much quicker in terms of focusing, as well as the interaction with the software itself while using it. seems to be very snappy from what we see. So I think that's very good improvements that we see from the previous generation. But other than that, to be honest, there's not much, right? So now the question is, it worthwhile the upgrade? Yeah.
Mhm. I think there are some also minor upgrades, which I think can sometimes be omitted. I think one thing that's been sort of undervalued is actually the ability to shoot high efficiency files. You know how when we shoot, we usually use just JPEG and um, RAW files,
Yeah.
and it's very sort of polarizing in terms of what people feel about JPEG and RAW. High efficiency files are basically the files that you actually shoot on your iPhone. Think of it as a sort of less compressed version of a JPEG. Yet at the same time, it's a smaller file, so you do retain some editing capabilities as well as the resolution and things like that. So I think that's something that's quite easily overlooked. But I think if you're somewhere in between and you want a file, then I think the high efficiency files also make quite a good upgrade to it.
Yep.
Not to mention, we also have better video capabilities, ability to shoot 6.2K video, basically.
Yep.
That being said, what do you think about the video market for this camera?
Honestly, one thing that I was a bit disappointed with the V was that the lack of IBIS. It made it a bit hard. I always require a gimbal. I know that people have taken videos with it and it looks amazing, but maybe I just have shaking hands and it just comes out so bad. But I always wanted actually to use the X100 as a hybrid camera. So I'm actually very looking forward to see how the video specs kind of match the reality. Because if I'm able to get good image from it and it's clean, avoid like the noise that comes from the low light as well as much as possible, it would be great to see actually.
Yeah, we also have the addition of, I think, one more film simulation, so you get a bit more film simulations to play with, which is one of the biggest attractions of these Fuji cameras. We also see a better autofocusing system I think the Fuji's autofocus system is good to begin with. Not as snappy as probably the Sony's, but still very good and more than enough for everyday use, as well as the people who this camera is targeted for.
For sure.
What are some of the things which you wish you would have seen an upgrade, or something which, when you saw the update list, you were a little bit disappointed? I mean, I know we're just talking about one generation, but is there anything that stood out to you?
I actually thought they would change the lens. I personally thought that they would change it ever so slightly. Obviously, that would come with probably a size compromise as well. But I do wish that the lens was changed so that from previous generation to this one, there's a bit more of a hardware change rather than just the internals. But that would be an interesting one to have.
I mean, the 23 f2 on that camera is amazing to begin with.
Yes, no doubt.
It's a very good lens to begin with. But yeah, I mean, it's very compact but yeah, I think certain things, for example, like whether or not they'll improve the screen, the optic viewfinder resolution, sometimes or the battery. These are some little things which sometimes you hope to see improved. But I think most of those were just sort of static. I mean, it was very good to begin with, but it's just that it was more software upgrades when it came to the camera itself.
Yeah, I think it was very minor. I think compared to the previous generation, like from 4 to 5, maybe the jump was a bit bigger. To 5 to 6, I feel like the jump, at least for now, without the camera at hand, it feels to be at least less of a jump, but a small leap in terms of the evolution of it. Which I think, I mean, granted to Fuji, the V worked perfectly. It sold a lot. Maybe you don't have to fix what is not broken, right? So you can just improve a little and work on it. I think that's probably the Fuji mentality. And look at the sales right now for the 6. It's so hard to get, and it's just, I think the B&H website, it initially showed like shipping in 28th of February. Now they don't know, they literally don't show that anymore. It's just like it's not even showing any.
I was watching one of the reviewers, and he was saying that from the moment it was launched, like I think it was 1 a.m. Basically, it sold out in 5 minutes. Like the first batch sold out on B&H in 5 minutes, and he ordered it at 03, so he managed to get a copy early on. But essentially, everyone else is on back order until don't know when. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, if and we know it's a great camera, but there are actually a lot of alternatives on the market. Actually, I would say, like I think, and I don't want to like I think this is a great camera, but at the same time, like given how we actually consume our media nowadays, which a lot of people are just watching on their phones or iPad at max.
Yep.
I think there are actually a lot of alternatives on the market, cheaper alternatives with better value, which actually I think people should consider. Like there's so many sleepers on the market which you can buy secondhand if you're on a budget, way under retail, which you don't need to have the sort of same, um, you know, crazy, gray market prices.
Yep.
And actually, like if I were just to mention some, I think even the cameras on Fuji, like the XT30, or the um, like those lines that are kind of sleepers, and or even for example, they previously had the XS20. So actually, I think there's some great alternatives from Fuji, and we're talking about a camera that's cheaper and at the same time a camera that has the ability to change lenses. So you're not just limited to the 23 f2, but you can have access to an array of amazing Fujifilm glass that's available. And just to name some, for example, the Fujifilm XS20, all right, or the Fujifilm X-T30. These are they have a similar size to the Fujifilm X100 VI, and yet you're getting um, almost as good or even better video and photo capabilities, the ability to switch lenses. So I think those are something that people should look at if you're really looking at the X100 VI, because I think, to be honest, when we look at like if you're an amateur or a professional photographer like you and I, like the X100 VI is actually not a great first camera to begin with if you think of it that way. Like, would you recommend it
Interesting.
as a first camera?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right?
I would actually put the other way. Actually, I think because like for example for me, I'm mainly a Canon shooter, right? And if I want to dive into the Fuji ecosystem, actually I don't want to buy all the lenses, for example, right? So I think for me, the reason why I got the V, for example, was I actually want to try the Fuji system, but I don't want to commit myself with my life and soul to all the lenses. It's much reasonable than Canon. But for that reason, I think like that's one big appeal for me, is that I can just buy this camera. I know that I cannot upgrade it more. I can't buy any lenses for it, so I know I have more money. So I think
but as I was saying, like, so you could actually for a cheaper price buy another camera and also buy a similar lens just to try it out.
For sure.
Yeah. But obviously, if you manage to get your hands on X100 V or VI, you'd be getting a much better secondhand / resale value. So that's something that I think people will seriously consider when they're buying this camera.
Yeah, I think right now the gray market is really crazy. I mean, if I was to get a hand on one VI, it right now it costs us literally 2.5x of the original price of the retail price in
so
Hong
what, we're
Kong.
talking about so we're
Like
talking
around
about $2,500 US.
Yeah, US, which
2.5.
which is like, come on, it's not worth that price. I mean, it's a great camera, I think, but it's definitely not something that I'll pay for that in the gray market. So I'll just wait patiently for that.
I mean, I think other alternatives which would kind of be readily available would, for example, like, they're more expensive, but the Leica Q3, Leica Q2, we all know that's a great camera. Check out our video here to check out the comparisons between that camera.
Oh, we need to do a refresher on that now, because we compared the V and the Q3, and some people might not like it now.
And we also, for example, like Ricoh GR3, Nikon ZF, I think reasonable alternative as well.
Actually,
similar
Ricoh,
sort of retro specs.
The Ricoh it's actually, at the time when I bought the V, the X100 V, I was actually very tempted on the Ricoh. But for me, the reason why I didn't go for the Ricoh is because, again, I always wanted to kind of try the Fuji system, so that's why I went for it. But the Ricoh is actually very good. Has a camera. It's super pocketable. Again, it's almost the same hype of the TikTok, like social media. It made it really popular because of that. And I feel like it's on par in terms of like the trend from that perspective. And I would be expecting like another Ricoh GR coming. just because it's so popular as well.
All right. So I think, like, for the consumer of cameras, like, who who is this camera for? Like, who do you see buying this camera?
Well, that's a great question. I think people like me and others. I think like people like me is just something that is portable. It fits in your
Yeah.
pocket. Like especially now with a baby, I don't want to bring like a full arsenal of
Yeah,
kits,
yeah,
of lenses and stuff, right? And sometimes I just want to bring a small camera and
hmm
and just keep it. I mean, I know I can use my phone, but it's not the same, right? When you
yeah,
use the Fuji V, but at the time, it's just something that I really keep it in my pocket, and I can just take it out and use it. It's very simple. I don't need to do editing as well. The film simulation works
yeah,
really well. I think people that are really looking for more of a shoot and forget aspect, that's a
yeah,
beautiful camera, and people come out with amazing pictures from it, right? And I think if people are looking from that end, it's accessible to a lot of people, right? It's people like,
yeah,
I mean, even though I shoot professionally, sometimes I want to be lazy. I might not
yeah.
want to edit all the pictures, right? And yeah, the Fuji comes in that area. And some people want to get into photography, but they don't want to do editing as well. They can do the film simulation as well. I think that's the key aspect that the X100 V came out with. Or sorry, the X100 line was the nostalgic feel, which I think is something that attracts a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because I shoot with the X100 F, which I still think is a great camera. I'm more than capable enough for what I want to use it for. But I must say that when the F jumped to the V, I was sort of tempted. And actually, now with the VI, there's actually even a bigger incentive. I think what attracts me a lot is the in-body stabilization. I
Yeah,
think that gives, like, it actually makes the video usable. Um,
yeah,
and not sure if people have run tests in terms of like how that camera would process 6.2K video. I think one of my concerns was the memory card and whether or not that is, and in terms of like overheating and things like that, right? Because,
yeah,
for example, what I'm shooting now on the XH2S, there's like a sort of almost dedicated, video camera, and it can handle video well. But sometimes I wonder with the smaller X100 VI whether or not, how long can the video actually last? How, does it overheat? I think, can the memory card take it? I think those are actual
yeah.
problems that
I I've seen it with the 6.2 recording, some test footage. Actually, I think the max they could do is around 15 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but that seems to
yeah,
be like some tests that they have done, and
yeah,
that was because of the overheating. I think it shut off
yeah,
after that.
because it
Um,
uses a single SD card slot, right? So
yeah,
that's what you're using. So I guess they're fast enough, but I think if you were a proper filmmaker, documentary, then this may be a bit more difficult. Um, Another thing is that, remember that if you're looking for, like, if you're a vlogger, content creator, and you're looking for something to shoot vlogs on, again, I don't think this camera really fits.
yeah,
After all, it doesn't have a flip screen, so I think it does have its limitations in terms of being a sort of handheld camera for
yeah,
vlog content creation. Whereas the XS20, XH2S, I think those would provide much better alternatives. Um, but I think if you're looking for, if you're someone who likes even to shoot with their phone, but you're looking for something a little better, I think the X100 line is something to definitely look into.
yeah. I think honestly, like I have very high expectations towards the VI, just because. Again, actually, the reason why I got it is not because I wanted to upgrade. To be honest,
Yeah,
I'm actually very happy with the V. It's just that again, for content for you guys
yeah.
over there,
I mean,
yeah,
you did make a profit selling it, right? That's
yeah,
not a bad
exactly. That's true
that's
as
not a
well.
bad bonus.
Yeah, so that's the plus side. But it's
Yeah,
also kind of intriguing for me, as you mentioned, the video aspect. I think the IBIS. I want to see. I'm a hybrid shooter. I tend to
yeah.
shoot a bit more video than pictures, but
Mhm.
I feel technically speaking, the IBIS would add a lot of value for me, and the
Yeah,
4K 60 is something that I also want to see how good it is at 60 FPS shooting with the VI. Does it overheat? What's the limitation? Like these are also my concerns. I don't
mhm,
think I honestly will shoot at 6.2 all the time.
mhm.
I feel like 4K is enough for me, at least for my
Yeah,
workflow, at least from a leisure kind of camera perspective.
yeah.
Professionally, yeah, I'll stick to Canon. But
Yeah.
yeah, as you said, the VI, I have very high expectations, and 40 megapixels. I hope that
Yeah.
more cropping factor
Yeah.
will come in terms of like allowing me to crop the pictures that I take.
Yeah. I mean, another quite interesting sort of thing that sort of also goes under the radar is actually the X100 VI's what we call the frame IO. So is this direct camera to cloud
Yeah.
sort of compatibility. So without using additional grip, you can send files directly from the camera to the cloud wirelessly and immediately, and it can be shared. Photos and videos can be shared like never before. And with an internet connection, it means that you can share your things much faster, freely available. And in terms of the exterior of the X100 VI compared to the V, you actually get this little Bluetooth button at the bottom of the front. So they're really trying to optimize this for Instagram, TikTok, things like that.
Yeah, I think the frame IO is a very interesting point. I think even the X2S, your camera,
Yeah.
it's going to have it in a future firmware, or already has it. I don't know if it's either one. Which I think honestly, for me, when I'm shooting video, it's amazing. Like I use frame IO, and if I could actually have that in the Canon cameras, like as easy as I could get on the Fuji one, it's I'm very looking forward to that, just to be able to kind of upload the videos as before I get home and see, depending on the file size as well. But I'm actually very looking forward to that.
All right. So, what do you think you're gonna get your hands on your camera?
Sorry?
What do you think you're gonna get hands on your camera?
Well, I think it will be probably April, right? So only in April I will get a hands on.
Okay.
I'm hoping before that, but very unlikely. I think with the Q and it's very challenging. I feel like in Hong Kong, similar with the Leica Q3, the launch, if you recall, we were very lucky to get it. But if we didn't get it, we probably have to wait for 3 months, right?
But the funny thing is, I feel like the market is they're more. To be honest, a lot of the people who were there at the lineup for the launch, they're not shooters, right? A lot of people were there to.
Not all of them look like shooters.
Yeah. Some of them are probably there to buy it and to make a buck, make some money out of it.
Right.
But I think it's slightly different with the Q3 because it's at a different price point. So I don't think the demand is as crazy as the Fuji. I mean, we're talking about a camera 3 times the price difference. I mean, the Leica Q3 is a great camera, but not everyone can fork out $5,000-$6,000, on a very prosumer point and shoot camera.
Yeah.
So whereas the Fuji at $1,500, I mean, it appeals a lot more to the general market, and I imagine that demand is several fold of the Leica Q3.
For sure. Yeah, and I think actually I'm very curious how actually the new camera stakes with the Q3. To be honest, as you mentioned, it's like 5,000-6,000, and I mean the Fuji is so much cheaper. Previously with the V, it was already almost neck and neck. To be honest, my perspective is that the Fuji is still the greater value. Now with the VI, let's see, because the Q3 is a great camera, but the video, I felt like the rolling shutter was a problem, and I actually want to see with the VI the rolling shutter how problematic it is on the VI as well, because that to me is a deal breaker. If I see the rolling shutter being really bad, then that means they haven't solved anything. And with a bigger sensor, it's tricky to handle the rolling shutter.
Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely when you get your hands on the X100 VI, I'm sure we can get our hands on a Q3, and then we can do some head-to-head comparisons.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Should we?
No, I think we can wrap it up. I think it's a good coverage of the Fuji. I'm not sure if any of our viewers, if you guys have it already, if you're lucky enough to have it, let us know in the comments below. How you find it. Are you happy? Did you upgrade it, or is it like your first Fuji camera from the X100 lineup?
Yeah. So anyway, as we mentioned, like this is the first video of hopefully more podcasts now to come. We really want to explore and make this more interactive. Like I feel like YouTube, it's partially as much as we enjoy making these videos, we enjoy your guys' feedback and input. So, should I, as someone who has the F, should I jump on the fence and get the VI as well? So that's something that let us know in the comments below.
Join me, Stanton.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, otherwise, just to wrap up, another exciting launch by Fuji. Again, I'm sure this camera is gonna sell and is selling like hotcakes. So interested to see more video and reviews to come up, and let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Otherwise, this wraps up this week's podcast, and next week we're talking about the Leica SL3.
Yes, that's
That will be our next discussion.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big one. Yeah.
Yeah. So until next week, we'll see you guys. Don't forget to give us a like, comment, and a subscription. And